Revolutionary mind, when acted with violence, can be seen as opposing peace. However, when it is acted with humanity, it can be identified as a bearer of peace. But what's the difference? The difference lies between the people's perception as to how revolutionary ideas were carried, since all of it are aiming of one goal, and that is to achieve global stability and harmony. Good day everyone, I'm Nika Lianet, and in this video we're going to discuss about the lesson for the United Nations in the contemporary global governance. So in the previous lesson, we've talked about internationalism, which is classified into two, such as liberal internationalism and socialist internationalism. Many internationalists such as Bentham and Kant envision a worldwide government. But why does even just one of those systems doesn't even exist today? Well, that's because of what we call sovereignty. So what is sovereignty? Sovereignty, according to Robert Lansing in 1913, it conveys an idea of completeness, of sufficiency, of unrestricted dominance, an authority from which there can be no appeal, in which you cannot dissociate supremacy of will and the power to compel obedience. Sa madaling sabi, ang soberanya ay ang karapatan na nagbibigay sa isang bansa na makapagsarili at pamunuan nito ang buo nitong nasasakupan. So that is why there is no single entity to whom each nation must answer. Why? Sapagkat walang anumang organisasyon ang makakapagdikta sa isang bansa gamit ang espesipikong pandaigdigang regulasyon, because each state has its own consistency in governing its own scope of territory. Given that sovereign is the supreme power of government, it is understood that each organization existing with that specific country must comply with its mandated laws and regulation, and most importantly, it gives an authority in which other countries must respect territorial boundaries, or what we call as external sovereign. So what happens when territorial boundaries were disrespected? Of course, it will result to conflict. So, example of this is the tension between Israel and Palestine. So, this tension is going on for 100 years already. So, it is all started when the Britain took over an area called Palestine. And at that time, the area was a home for the Arab majority and Jewish minority. And the tension started when the British government received an order from international community to build a national home for Jewish people in Palestine. And the Arab was against it, and over time the Jewish population grew in the area of Palestine, and in 1947, UN ordered Palestine to divide it into two, such as a Arab states and Jewish states, and Jerusalem being the international city. So, of course, the Jewish people accepted the order, and consequently, the Arab states or the Arab citizens didn't. So it really caused a conflict from that. And tired of making peace between the two communities, Britishers left in 1948, which when the Israel was formed. So up until now, the war or the dispute between Israel and Palestine is still existing. So can you guys imagine how powerful sovereign is? So that is why there is no single authority or entity talaga na kung saan ang bawat nasyon or ang lahat na nasyon ay sumunod. So, despite the lack of a single world authority, the states under international organization still continue to adhere to its orders and global rules as an implication of resemblance in world orders, and that is where global governance starts to kick in. So, what is global governance? As cited by Dominguez and Flores in 2018, according to Thakur and von Lagenhove in 2008, it is a complex of formal and informal institutions, mechanisms, relationships, and processes between and among states, markets, citizens, and organizations, both intergovernmental and non-governmental organizations, in which collective interests are articulated, rules and obligations are established, and differences are mediated. Meaning, global governance is an intersecting process generating order, considering the similarities and differences of various countries to behave in a certain way. So, from that, it causes the birth of intergovernmental organization, or also known as IGOs. So, what is IGOs? According to the Union of International Association, IGOs are are international organization composed primarily of sovereign states in which it is formed through a treaty or agreement which serve as a charter for creating the group. Examples of these are the United Nations, World Bank, or the European Union. The intergovernmental organization is not created or it's not intended to create a worldwide government. However, its main purpose is to establish a mechanism for the world's inhabitants to create or successfully work together in the areas of peace and security, and also to address the economic and social questions in promoting good governance. The concept of intergovernmental organizations will be further discussed by the next reporter. Thank you.
Good day everyone. My name is Ashley Mangaliwan and I will discuss about international organization. So according to RCRC, an international organization is an institution or entity that is formed by multiple countries or states, and it's aimed by promoting coordination, cooperation, and collaboration among its members. So these organizations are created to address common global challenges, foster international relations, and pursue specific goals or objectives. So sa pamamagitan ng kooperasyon at pagtutulungan ay sa international na antas ay inaasahan na mapangalagaan ang kapakanan ng lahat ng mga bansa at mapabuti ang mga buhay ng mga tao sa iba't ibang bahagi ng mundo. An international organization can have a wide range of focuses and areas of work, including peace and security, human rights, economic development, trade, health, environment, and education. They are often provide a platform for member countries to discuss and negotiate on issue of mutual concern, develop common policies and standards, implement joint programs and projects, and provide assistance and support in countries in need. One of the example of international organization is the IMF, or also known as International Monetary Fund. The IMF was established in 1944 and has its headquarters in Washington, D.C., United States. The IMF, composed of 190 member countries, which work together to provide financial stability and promote economic growth. The primary objective of the International Monetary Fund is to provide financial assistance and policy advice to its member country to help them overcome the balance of payment difficulties and promote economic stability. The IMF provides loans and technical assistance to countries in need, the economic surveillance and monitoring, and offers policy recommendation to address macroeconomic challenges.
Once again, good day everyone. Now let us discuss the three main types of organization, namely international organization, non-governmental organization, and the multinational enterprises. So First, the term Intergovernmental Organization or the IGO refers to an entity created by treaty involving two or more nations to work in good faith on issues of common interest. In the absence of a treaty, as IGO does not exist in the legal sense, the main purpose of IGOs were to create a mechanism for the world's inhabitants to work more successfully together in areas of peace and security, and also to deal with the economic and societal questions. In this current era of increasing globalization and interdependence of nations, IGOs have come to play a very significant role in international political systems and global governance. So, these are the some examples of intergovernmental organizations. So, the first one, AU or the European Union, some of the world's highest environmental standards and environmental policy, helps green the AU economy, protect nature, and safeguard the health and quality of life of people in living in the AU. The second one is the UN or the United Nations, most popular intergovernmental institute responsible for the prevention of war and conflict in the world. Other examples of organization under the International Governmental Organization includes African Union, North Atlantic Treaty Organization or the NATO, OECD or the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, IMF, or the International Monetary Fund, and many more. So the second one is the non-governmental organization or the NGO is a group that function independently of any government. It is usually non-profit NGO, sometimes called civic society organization, are established on community, national, and international levels to serve a social or political goals such as a humanitarian cause or the protection of the environment. These are the some examples of organization under NGOs. Oxfam International works to create solutions for poverty, okay, and humanitarian assistance. The second one is the CARE, dedicated to ending poverty, saving lives, and achieving social justice. Other examples are World Vision, International Rescue Community, World Wildlife Fund, Humanist International, and many more. Lastly, the multinational enterprises or the MNAS serve as catalysts for reconceptualizing organization environment relations because they operate stimulously in multinations through their globalized production systems. Multinational enterprises, their subsidiaries, and extended value chains represent an important share of the private sector in many developing and industrialized economies. The potential contribution of MNES to the creation of more and better jobs is large, mostly in their supply chain, but also through foreign direct investment. These are the some examples of multinational enterprises organization: Scholastic Corporation, Electric Arts, Amazon.com, SoftBank Group, Mars Incorporated, and many more.
So good day everyone, I am Charlene Alagao and I will be discussing the first part of the topic, the United Nations. So the United Nations is the most prominent international organization in the contemporary world. It was established on October 24, 1945 at the end of the World War II, after the collapse of the League of Nations. Now, as the countries were afraid to have another global war, the Allied powers agreed during the war to establish new global organization to help manage the international affairs. And as a result was the creation of the UN. So what is UN? UN is a global diplomatic and political organization dedicated to international peace and stability, which is the main function of the organization. And the UN is divided into 5 active organs. These are the General Assembly, Security Council, Economic and Social Court, International Court of Justice, and Secretariat. Now let's focus first on the General Assembly. So the General Assembly is the only body in which all members are represented. It exercises deliberative, supervisory, financial, and also elective functions relating to any matter within the scope of the UN Charter. So the UN Charter, it is the international agreement within the states or within the countries. And the 193 member state has a seats in General Assembly. So the General Assembly is known as the policy making and the representative body of the UN. It primarily discusses issues, make recommendations, and undertakes various functions including admitting new members and participating in the selection of the key personnel. And the assembly convenes annually, where they elect president each year and holds a general debate at the beginning of the regular session. So in the early years of the General Assembly, the Philippines have played a major role as the Filipino diplomat Carlos P. Romulo was elected as the General Assembly's president on the year 1949 and 1950. So now let's move on to the next organ, which is the Security Council. So the United Nations Security Council is crucial in maintaining the international peace and security with the primary responsibility assigned by the UN Charter. So if the General Assembly is the policy maker, the Security Council is the one who takes actions, making them regarded as the most powerful UN organ. So the Security Council assesses threats to peace and the act of aggression, urging peaceful regulations and proposing settlement terms. And it also holds the authority to impose or authorize military force to restore or preserve the international peace and security. So if the states seek a military intervention to another state, they must seek the Security Council's approval first for the action to be considered legal. So this really highlights the significant power vested to the Security Council. And this is why many critics believe that the SC is the most powerful organs to the United Nations, even though the General Assembly is the representative body of the UN. So the next organ will be presented or will be discussed by my co-members.
Economic and Social Council, UN's main venue for discussions of internal economic and social issues. It directs and coordinates the economic, social, humanitarian, and cultural activity of the UN and its specialized agencies, and it has 54 member states. Next is the Internal Court of Justice. Internal Court of Justice is the UN's principal judicial organ to arbitrate international disputes, and it has 15 judges. Last but not the least is the Secretariat. Secretariat is UN's administrative arm comprised of civil servants responsible for carrying out the day-by-day operations of the organization. Antonio Gutierrez is the United Nations Secretary General in 2017. Secretary General is the principal administrative officer of the United Nations. It serves as the chief administrative officer at all meetings and carries out any function that those organs entrust to the Secretariat.
Good day. I am Mark Christian Galdones, and I want to discuss the contemporary challenges of United Nations. So, as you appreciate, United Nations was created in 1945, so it was more than 70 years ago. So the world has moved on, the life has moved on, and there is new challenges, difficulties that United Nations has faced. So first and foremost, the sovereignty issue. So we all know that United Nations is not a world government. So nagpa-function lang siya dahil sa cooperation ng isang state. If ayaw ng state na makikooperate, so walang action na mai-take yung United Nations. So example of this is Rohingya genocide in Myanmar. So the Myanmar military massacred the Rohingya people because they are Muslim. So the United Nations wants to intervene in this genocide, so to protect the human rights. But the Myanmar government does not welcome the rapporteurs of the United Nations. So the sovereignty issue gives the United Nations limits of its actions. So next is the geopolitical issue. Geopolitical issue is divergent national interest among the members of states. So if there is a situation or a conflict na mayroong interest ang isang state or member ng United Nations, is nahihirapan ng United Nations na magsagawa ng isang ng isang action para i-address yung conflict na nangyayari. So example of this is the Syria civil war. So the president of the Syria was an ally to Russia. So the United Nation wants to intervene this civil war, but the Russia president warning the United Nation that they will assign a veto to stop this intervention. So this geopolitical issue hinder hinder the United Nations to address this conflict and crisis effectively. So some people says next is the institutional changes. So some people says this is very necessary. Why people say this is very important to tackle about? Because they see that the usage of power in the United Nations, especially in the Security Council. So we all know that Security Council has 15 members, so 5 of which is the permanent 5. So this is especially the question of veto in Security Council. So if the United Nations wants to take action of a conflict or a war, and the 5 permanent is opposing to that what we call this action, so hindi mangyayari yung action na gusto ng United Nation, kasi nire-respect nila yung decision ng permanent 5, yung veto nila. Kasi if may nag-oppose or may nag-veto sa action ng isang sa United Nation, ay mawawala yung epekto ng kanilang action. So some people say that the problem here is the institutional structure, and the people wants to build to change the institutional and to reflect new approaches. So next is the environmental. So did you feel that changes in our environment, global warming, pollution, and climate change? So we all experiencing this. So to end this environmental issue, hindi naman ito solve ng isang state lang. Duty ito ng United Nations na pagsasamahin, o dapat may involve lahat ng state, kasi nadadama yung ibang region sa environmental issue ng iba. So kailangan involve ang state, ang lahat ng tao dito.
Global governance is a complex issue that needs a holistic approach for you to understand. Just like the International Organization and United Nations in particular, in which global governance can be widely observed, learning global governance cannot be fully understood by just one sitting. It needs a thorough evaluation for it to be fully understood or comprehend correctly. As Xi Jinping once said, no country has the right to dominate global affairs, control the destiny of others, or keep advantages in development all to itself. Even less should be allowed to do whatever it likes and be the hegemon, bully or boss of the world.
And that concludes our presentation for the Lesson 4 entitled The United Nations and Contemporary Global Governance. Thank you for watching.